We are currently witnessing a profound shift in the AI value chain, one where the escalating crisis in Iran is sending a massive asymmetric ripple effect across the entire industrial ecosystem. There is a persistent collective illusion that artificial intelligence is purely digital, a weightless evolution of code and cloud. But AI has a physical floor. Its foundation is forged in massive electrical loads, sophisticated thermal management, and a sprawling industrial substrate. The core constraint today isn't algorithmic. It is a fundamental supply and demand crisis in crude oil and natural gas. The AI pipeline is being choked by a single brutal metric: lead time. The instability in Iran is manifesting as structural bottlenecks that are deferring the very infrastructure required to monetize AI. Take transformers, the unglamorous backbone of power distribution. We have watched lead times balloon from 2.8 years to nearly 4. In a sector where speed is the only moat, that is a full year of lost innovation. Then consider the grid. The queue to connect a Tier 4 data center was already hovering at 5 years. In high-demand jurisdictions, we are now looking at a 7-year horizon. This is forcing a zero-sum game for local governments. Do they prioritize the massive power draw of a GPU cluster? Or do they insulate their constituents from grid instability and blackouts? Right now, the data centers are losing that debate. This isn't limited to the macro grid. At the component level, GPU lead times are approaching 12 months with no discernible ceiling, because natural gas generates approximately 40% of U.S. utility power, and we are currently prioritizing the energy security of our allies during this crisis. AI firms are finding themselves in a bidding war for increasingly expensive electrons. Further complicating this is the helium headache. Qatar produces roughly 36% of the world's helium supply. With the specter of a blockade in the Strait of Hormuz, that supply chain is precarious. Without liquid helium, you cannot sustain the cryogenic cooling systems required for high-density computing. Without cooling, the cloud simply goes dark. For the investor, this is fundamentally a capital expenditure problem. Global firms have already deployed billions into land acquisition and shell infrastructure. However, every month of delay is a month where that capital remains unproductive. The Iran crisis is effectively a geopolitical tax on ROI, compressing valuations across the board. Furthermore, the very materials inside those transformers, insulators and coolants, are often chemical derivatives of petroleum. As supply tightens, the cost basis for infrastructure skyrockets, transforming pipeline potential into backlog liabilities. We are also seeing the emergence of social friction. Communities are increasingly resistant to having their land and power diverted to data hubs that offer little local utility. These regulatory and social disputes add layers of friction that the market has yet to fully price in. This isn't a localized Silicon Valley issue. It's a global contagion hitting partners like Samsung and SK Hynix. With 20% of global LNG transiting through the Strait of Hormuz, logistics and maritime insurance premiums are escalating. In a hyper-competitive race for AI dominance, firms cannot easily pass these costs to the end user without sacrificing market share. They are being forced to absorb these costs, directly eroding operating margins. Whether it's training or inference, the unit cost of intelligence is rising. We are currently transitioning from the era of digital AI to physical AI, the world of humanoid robotics, autonomous logistics, and smart city nodes. This requires a hub-and-spoke architecture, massive compute cores in metros like New York supported by a peripheral edge. But as we extend that radius, the transmission and fiber optic costs become prohibitive. To be clear, I am not suggesting an AI bubble. The underlying technology is transformative, but we cannot ignore the fact that AI is not immune to the volatility of the Middle East. The primary bottlenecks today aren't just silicon, they are packaging, logistics, and raw material availability. The harvest season, that inflection point where AI delivers exponential margins, is being pushed further into the horizon. As we navigate these complex shifts, remember that the analysis I've shared today is for informational and educational purposes only. Geopolitical landscapes and market conditions are highly volatile and subject to rapid change. This is not financial or legal advice, and my perspective should not be the sole basis for any investment decision. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional and conduct your own due diligence before acting on the macro trends we discuss here. I'm the Weekly Asset Architect. Let's keep building. I'll see you in the next one.